Recovery Sort Of is a podcast where we discuss recovery topics from the perspective of people living in long-term recovery. This podcast does not intend to represent the views of any particular group, organization, or fellowship. The attitudes expressed are solely the opinion of its contributors. Be advised, there may be strong language or topics of an adult nature.
Welcome back. It's Jason. I'm a guy in recovery, and
I'm with Billy. I messed that up. I'm not with Billy. I am Billy. I'm a person in long-term recovery as well.
Billy's had a rough week, so we'll excuse him for that. And so I'm dropping the long term. I'm just that I feel elitist now.
Yeah.
Now the more we talk about this stuff and inclusion and I'm just in recovery.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm just gonna say I'm Jason. I'm a human. That'd be the easiest way. Maybe then I'll feel like I'm leaving out fish, and I'll be like, I'm Jason. Have a heart that beats, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but isn't it important that you identify for to reduce stigma and all that? Remember, that was a thing for you a while back. That's past now.
I don't know.
You gotta have recovery addict in there somewhere.
Do I?
Unless you're done with that.
I'm not that anymore.
Yeah. Right. I've moved on.
Yeah. We're doing something else now.
I'm just a person.
We're going to name our podcast Human Sort Of. Anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to be here chatting with you. I was excited to talk Sunday, and then it didn't happen. Billy had some unfortunate events happen that led us not to be able to talk Sunday. And
totally diet related, too.
Yeah, imagine that, maybe. And so now it's Wednesday, and I woke up this morning, and one of my friends from my teenage years, who I spent a good portion of my teenage years with, passed away in the middle of the night. And, you know, I don't think it has anything to do with drugs per se, but it was just one of those. And look, I haven't talked to this person in quite a long time. Doesn't hurt. You know, it's sad, of course, but I think more it's just made me think, like, here I am Sunday, like, oh man, it's sad that we can't record. I hope he feels better. But like, I have this stealth expectation that you're just always going to be alive and show up and we're going to record and woohoo, right? Like, I don't ever consider the fact that maybe you're going to die one day and we won't record. And so I take a lot for granted is what I'm getting at. And so I'm even more excited to record tonight because you are feeling a little healthier and you're not dead.
Yeah, and my wife brings that up to me all the time. Like, that's a weird balance to try to strike. Like, I can't live my life like I'm going to die tomorrow every day. You know, like I have to make some sort of plans for future. And I mean, I don't have to, but
right.
It's rational to think of like saving some money for a rainy day or, you know, building up for a trip. Like every day can't be, you know, treated like my last day on earth. But it can help me to appreciate the people that I have around because I've learned just being in recovery, like how the people that I've been close to have changed, you know, over the years, and how friends that in the moments we were best of friends, I thought this is just the way it's always going to be. Yeah. And then it's not that way now, and how weird that is sometimes.
Right. So to not hold us up any further, we're going to talk about nutrition today. Nutrition in recovery.
Yeah.
Why, right? Why are we talking about nutrition and recovery? So I think if you don't know why, one of the things that I learned quickly, at least in a 12-step fellowship, they talked about this being a mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional disease, right? And in order to combat that, we also needed to have mechanisms of combating it that are mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. We couldn't just like go into this and say, I'll work the 12 steps and I'll be totally healthy. Like, hey, maybe we need to see a doctor and get checked out because we haven't seen a doctor in years. And maybe it's good to go to a dentist. And maybe we should start some kind of exercise plan, even if that's just like moving and walking. And I don't want to say just walking, but like, you know, anything really. Because when we're out there we're usually in a pattern of doing the bare minimum energy wise and movement wise to get what we need. And that's the sole purpose of life, really. And so we're not looking at our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual selves and health-wise. And so we can't just come in to recovery and only focus on, oh, I'm not using drugs, it's all better now. And I think even though I heard that, to some extent, I didn't listen or I missed it, right? We make some jokes. One of the jokes in recovery, you put down the spoon and picked up the fork. It's been heard many times. For anyone who doesn't understand, a lot of people cook their drugs on spoons. And so you put down the spoon and then you come into recovery and you start eating. Many, many, many reasons for this. One, addictive behavior doesn't just go away because we stop using drugs. Food becomes a very quick fill-in for where drugs used to be part of our life all day long. Food can be part of our life all day long. Another aspect of it is we don't eat when we're using a lot of times. And so when we get clean, it's like, oh, maybe I should start eating again. That's probably a good thing. And we don't know what level of intake per day equals our ideal self, right? So we just kind of eat a lot because we're like, oh, I haven't eaten in forever. I need to stock up. Other aspects to this is that people eat a lot to cover depression. It's a coping skill, right? So depression feels like an emptiness and a void, kind of like addiction feels like a void. And so eating actually gives us like a physical image of what we're trying to do with the depression. We're trying to fill that emptiness. Similarly, but a little different, anger does the same thing. So anger is another emotion that the world tells us we're not allowed to feel. And so we use food to visually stuff anger down by eating on top of it. And so just things that we don't think about when we get here, right? And so I think when we get clean, it's like, man, what tastes good, what's easy. My life was all ease and comfort. Can I eat fast food every night? Because that's way easier than making shit.
Right. And I think that was it for me. I mean, when I was using, I ate the bare minimum of food, and what I did eat was all garbage. And then when I got clean, I didn't necessarily understand that my eating habits were terrible and bad. I just, I kept eating the stuff that I liked, pizza and fast food and chicken nuggets.
Ice cream.
Yeah. Cheesesteaks.
Cake.
So I wasn't really making good food choices because I didn't really know any better, The last thing I cared about was my physical health when I was out there using.
Yeah, I wasn't like coming out of a nod looking up tips for, how to eat healthy for dinner that night. Was not my concern. I remember actually, I would eat, at some point I had a bowl of ice cream and I noticed that cake underneath of ice cream was really good. And so what I realized was it wasn't really the cake, it was the icing. And so I would get out a tub of icing and a gallon of ice cream, and I had my ice cream scoop, and it would be like 3 scoops of the tub of icing and then 3 scoops of the ice cream and then like Hershey's syrup on top. And I mean, I was in heaven.
The sugar rush must have been.
Well, and so I don't think there was a sugar rush because I was very much on heroin.
Oh, okay.
But I think my body was so lacking in nutrients that like all that sugar was, it was probably like, oh, thank God, just give us something.
Something carbs.
Right. So I actually tried to eat that clean one time and it was sick.
Yeah.
It was
That's
sickeningly
terrible.
Sweet. But it was incredible when I was using. And so, yeah, we don't have healthy ideas when we get here. And one of the things I think we miss sometimes, I definitely miss this, is that the old idea, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And I think this happens to a lot of us. It's not that we come in recovery with the idea of, yeah, I'm going to, work steps or work my recovery program, whatever that may be, and fuck exercise and diet. I don't care about them. They're stupid. Nobody really says that. It's just we don't ever come up with a conscious plan of what we're going to do for exercise and diet. And I think that's ultimately what this episode for me is about, right? It's about we need to find some sort of nutrition guidance. It's not about the right and wrong nutrition. It's not about what you need to be eating or how you need to eat when you get clean or what's good for you or what's bad for you. Like, I'm not here to decide that, right? I just think without having some destination, you don't know where you're going to end up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's the old saying, like, left, to my own best choices. Like I make terrible choices. I make terrible decisions for myself. And if I don't, like you said, set out a plan, or what I do is typically, learn about some new diet that's going on and then kind of set that as like a guidepost or a guide marker. Because if not, fucking Rita's every day sounds great.
I don't like Rita's.
Well,
Cold Stone.
Yeah, there you go. Go Cold Stone every day sounds just as great.
Yeah.
And I can I'll justify, I worked hard, I did this, whatever. And
I'm not shooting heroin.
Right, I
can have a bowl of
consistently,
ice cream.
will make poor decisions for myself. And not, like, I've never really, I wouldn't say eaten in an addictive way. I've never struggled with food in that way. I know people that have. For me, it's almost been the opposite. Like, I've always been thin. I've been able to eat whatever I want and not really put on any weight, which people are always like, oh, that's great. But the downside to that is I ate, like, complete shit for the first probably 10 or 15 years of my recovery. And I mean, I'm like, oh, I don't like vegetables, so I didn't eat them.
Same.
I mean, once a day, maybe.
Once a week.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
Fruit was okay if it was on top of ice cream or something, and that's just, or lettuce on a, cheesesteak, but that was it.
I like the fruity, syrupy cheesecakes.
Yeah, and it's cereal and processed foods and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm fine because I'm, 160 pounds and I'm not overweight and everything is fine, like I'm good. Not understanding that I was just consistently putting garbage into my system,
I'm picturing eating like only ice cream every day for 3 weeks and then look in the mirror and be like, I'm the epitome of health.
Yeah, right. And that was I literally ate ice cream every night, if not 6 nights a week, that was my thing.
Did you have a holy day, a Sabbath you took off from ice cream?
That was when we went out to dinner. I had whatever dessert they had at the restaurant.
I had cake on the 7th night. Yeah, so this is very little about like how healthy you need to be. It's very little about measuring out every gram of broccoli you're going to eat, right? This has nothing to do with that to me. This episode is about find some sort of direction. Find some sort of goal, destination, no matter how slightly vague it may be, just to have an idea of which way you want to go, because without that, you're going to end up somewhere that you didn't plan to be, most likely. I mean, maybe you end up somewhere and you're like, oh my God, this is great. I totally meant to get here. But I think for most of us, without direction, we just kind of wander and don't know what the hell we're doing.
Right. Or end up in places we don't know how we got there. It's like the ice cream every day was never like the goal. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to eat ice cream every night. It was like, oh, I enjoy ice cream. A bowl of ice cream before bed is good. And then that just becomes the routine. Then that's just, and it wasn't ever a plan. It wasn't a goal. I didn't set out to be there, but that was just my thing, and.
So I think I'm a little ashamed. I don't eat ice cream every night, but for quite a stretch there, I have done some snack that's not good for me every night.
Well, I would switch to cereal too, which is probably just as bad as ice cream when you look at it, because it wasn't good cereal. It was like Fruity Pebbles or Captain Crunch or it was tasted good, but it definitely wasn't healthy.
I can remember times in recovery just feeling like I needed a sweet shot at the end of every meal to almost be the signal that the meal was over. So I would have something sweet at the end of it. Wasn't like, oh, you had dinner and now you'll have dessert. It was like lunch and dessert, breakfast and dessert, dinner dessert, snack dessert. I was like, what the hell am I doing? But yeah, I don't know if it's just being blessed with the genes, the DNA I have or whatnot. I have not eaten extremely healthy for a good portion of my life. I did a lot of working out. I don't think that totally mitigates the stuff I ate at all, especially for the purpose of health. It might have helped me for looking all right, but it didn't really help the way I felt. And what I mean by that is a lot of these, as a lot of websites and information out there describes, a lot of eating can tie into mental health, right? Like if we're not eating in certain ways, we start to feel certain ways. And I don't think many of us are in touch with that idea. I remember sitting down for a meal with a guy who talked about how he doesn't eat much red meat anymore. And I was like, oh, really? Why not? And he said, oh, well, because if I have red meat, I can I'll feel sluggish the next day. And I'm like, This was a while back, and I was like, you're fucking making that shit up. Like, you don't know how you feel to that minute degree, right? Where you can
Right.
tell the difference. But he thought he could, right? And I don't know. I still struggle with that kind of thing. But I can tell if I eat too much, my stomach hurts and I don't feel like moving. I feel weighed down. I can tell if I eat lighter meals, I feel more active and energetic. And I think the more I meditate and the more I get in touch with like how my body feels, I have more of an idea of what foods do to me if I pay attention. And I think that's part of the problem is that generally when we eat, we don't pay attention. We're not paying any attention to anything. We're not looking at nutrition labels. We're not even questioning like what chemicals or not chemicals are in the food. We don't have any idea where we're going, so we're not counting any kind of calories. We're not looking at how often or frequently we ate today or the volume at each of those settings. We're just doing. And that just seems so irresponsible to me when I just described it like that.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, we're irresponsible. We're teenagers.
Yeah. When I go out for the day and I don't really plan what I'm going to do or where I'm going to eat or what I'm going to have or anything, and I'm out at the store and it gets to be a time that I'm hungry, and so what's around? Fast food, Wawa, Rofo, I mean, there are salad places around, but I don't really know where they are. I know.
Are there salad places? I've never even heard of them.
I think there are salad places around. And there are probably healthy choices in some of those places I just described, but I couldn't tell you what they are.
Right.
I can tell you what my favorite things are.
That's funny. And so we have actually both been on a specific, not the same, but specific-ish diets recently. And so I thought we'd talk a little bit about that, and not that anybody for sure needs to follow my crazy invented diet, but just, it gives people an idea of what we're doing in our lives, and maybe they can come up with their own great idea or follow something that they look up or that sounds interesting to them. I think part of society's problem with the word diet is that we take it to mean a restriction.
Right.
And the word diet by itself is just the total of what you eat regularly. Like it's not anything. Like your diet is whatever you eat regularly. And I think I would say before you even consider a diet, the most important thing to do, and I've heard that the best thing you can ever do to change behavior is track and write down and become aware of what you currently do. Because when you see that, you're more likely to be like, oh shit, is that what I'm really doing?
Right.
Like I need to do something about that. And so, hey, maybe that's the first step. Maybe the first step in our nutrition program that we're creating as we talk, just track what you eat for a week.
The nutrition sort of program.
Yeah, nutrition sort of. I like it. So you want to start with your diet?
Yeah, and I just like to say that the only reason I really got into any kind of diets over the last several years had to do with, like I say a lot, I like listening to podcasts that are educational and informative, and I came across a few that were on different, like how different things affect like my mental health or my, mental well-being. One of the first big ones I remember listening to that had a big impact, although it didn't change a lot of behaviors at the time, was sugar, and how sugar, is bad for us and affects all sorts of things in our brain, and has all these negative effects, physically and mentally on us. And yet it's in everything that we fucking eat, and everything's loaded with, high fructose corn syrup, which is sugar, and these different forms of sugar. And that, how I was like, wow, like, and I know it was tons of sugar that I was consuming every day. And because I wasn't really like overweight and I didn't feel unhealthy, I was still physically pretty active. I thought, that none of that applies to me. But over the years of just listening to that information and losing some of that ego as a result of recovery and realizing like, no, dummy, you're just as, there's nothing special or unique or amazing about you. Like all the shit that you eat, the negative health impacts on me are the same as they are on a 300-pound person. Just they have some other impacts from being overweight. But as far as cholesterol and the strain on your heart and your mental health, like all those things are impacted by this terrible food.
I'm just picturing you walking around like, oh man, my body is so amazing. It actually converts sugar into vitamin C.
Yeah.
Every time I eat it.
Yeah.
Full of vitamin C.
Yeah, and I, I don't know. I would say all the time, people, would say, "Oh, you should be so grateful that you're, don't gain weight." I'm like, I don't know if that's such a good thing. I don't know if
It's
that's
a
a great
liar.
thing. Yeah, but after hearing information over and over and over again, and sort of exploring some of that, I sort of started to ask those questions, like, could I feel better if I started eating better? Like, could I start, mentally and physically feeling better, changing the way that I feel by what I eat? And the answer to that was yes, that I could feel better by changing the way I eat. So then I started looking at all these different weird, diets. This was probably, I would say it started probably 5 or 6 years ago, where I really started to take it pretty serious, with nutrition and, what I was putting into myself. And like you said, just keeping track, logging. Like, one of the big things for me in the beginning was looking at labels. And looking at, like, how many carbohydrates does something have in it? And then when you take, like, 46 grams of carbs and convert that into, like, tablespoons of sugar, it's like 18 tablespoons of sugar. And just looking at that thing and going, holy shit, like, I know what a tablespoon of sugar looks like. And just a pile of 18 of those, and then just scooping it into my mouth. Like, that imagery, came from looking at these labels and
Sounds
thinking,
delicious.
and just thinking, fuck, that cannot be good for me. Like, there's no way that can be good for me. And I know that poor nutrition affects your cognitive response to stuff. Like, you are stupider if you don't eat well. Like, if you're, if
no
you're,
wonder you're eating well.
I know, if
Can't
you're
have that.
malnourished, if you are undernourished, then your brain is not working like it should. It's not working at its optimal. So
They might as well have told you if you ate bad, your penis was going to shrink. Oh, I'm eating healthy from now on,
Right,
damn it. I can't
yeah.
be dumb.
And just those things. Well, I don't know. I mean, for me, fucking life is hard enough as it is. I don't need to be dumb thinking around every decision I make. I already make bad enough decisions on a daily basis. Add another 2 or 3 because I had McDonald's for lunch and I'm fucked. But yeah, so then I started looking at different, and there's lots of them out there. I'll throw a couple words out, that the ones that appealed to me the most in the beginning, and a couple that I've tried. One of them was like what they call the Paleo Diet. Sometimes it's been called like the caveman diet. And it seemed real simple, and it is the simplest way to explain it is, think about what people would have done, 10,000 years ago as hunter-gatherers, during the Paleolithic time. What they would have went out and found in nature to eat. It would have been, fish, some lean meats, fruits, nuts, vegetables, and that's basically it. No processed foods. And this would be before farming and agriculture. So you don't really eat any dairy. You stay away from carbs, especially processed carbs, breads, that kind of stuff, wheat products. You might eat some whole grain stuff in nuts, but basically shit you would find if you went out and roamed around during, the Paleolithic time. What would you find? And you could eat that. And so that all seemed pretty simple, pretty basic, Yeah, it's all shit I could go out to a store and find almost anywhere that was easy to eat. I like sweet stuff, so, I didn't really, I never really committed to that. I tried it for a little while, messed around with that. Then there's a Mediterranean diet, which is somewhat similar to that, but it, you can add in fish. Like, this would be more modern, but what people would eat around the Mediterranean Sea. So you'd eat some fish and seafood. Again, lots of vegetables, healthy stuff, fruits, nuts, less red meats, more lean meats, things like that. Or the Keto Diet, which is really not high meat, but high fat and sort of really low carbs, which is no processed foods. And so for me, that concept of not eating processed foods, like processed breads, processed grains, anything in a box, that's been a, sort of theme with all of those. Like, you don't eat anything that's in a box, nothing in a box. That sort of theme has ran through my attempts at different diets at different times. It's like trying to eat natural stuff. And the whole idea behind that, which resonated with me, was if you think of what your body was designed to eat, what we were raised to eat, it's all those natural things. We aren't made to process these processed carbohydrates, these these corn-fed cows, and all this processed meat. It's basically processed meat that we have now. We aren't made to digest those things, and so that's why we see these huge increases in like heart disease and malnutrition and vitamin D deficiencies and obesity and diabetes. Like if you look at, the American diet compared to everywhere else. And so, looking at some of that, it seemed like a no-brainer just to try to like, hey, just eat shit that would grow in nature. Like that seems kind of easy.
It does, but it doesn't sound like it tastes good.
This episode has been brought to you in part by Voices of Hope, Inc., a nonprofit recovery organization made up of people in recovery, family members, and allies. Together, members strive to protect the dignity of those that use drugs and those in recovery by advocating for treatment, harm reduction and support resources, and mentoring. Please visit us at www.voicesofhopemaryland.org and consider donating to our cause.
So I'm a pretty picky eater. I call it a selective eater now because picky's got such a negative connotation to it, and I am fine with it. And also, I didn't ask fucking for it, right? I didn't wake up in one day when I was 3 and be like, you know what? I want to be really picky about what I eat today. Like it's just who I am. I put stuff in my mouth and it tastes bad, so I spit it out. Like I don't know what else to do. So stop shaming me for being a picky eater, guy.
And I've tried to be that guy that's like, I just got to eat it because it's healthy. Oh, it's so tough. That is bad. I don't like to taste. I don't like to eat things that I don't like.
Yeah. So I struggle with a lot of the healthier foods. It's just not
kale.
Stuff that's appealing. Oh, yeah. Fuck kale. Right. Spinach, I guess if you don't cook it, I'm all right with it. But
oh, and I only like it cooked.
Really?
Yeah, when it's all gushy.
Oh, no. No, I'll put it in like the bottom of a salad. Some spinach leaves, but don't cook that. It just looks like green mush.
Yeah.
Anyway. Getting away from it. So yeah, I kind of ran into the diet idea. I mean, I've done some off-color, not healthy diets throughout my life just to try to meet my nutrition needs for working out and stuff and putting on muscle. But actually coming to the idea of a healthy diet because I want to be a healthier individual. A couple years ago, maybe almost 5 at this point, a little less probably. I took a biology of obesity class, and for that class, we kind of had to do a project. My idea was I would make up these 2 random diets, and I would try them out for 3 weeks because I think I'm brilliant and I can solve every problem. So I was going to solve the health weight loss problem. And so I tried 2 different things. The first 3-week session, me and 2 other people ate 2 ounces, I think it was 2 ounces, 2 ounces of broccoli before anything we took in our body besides water. So you wanted to drink a coffee, you was eating broccoli. You wanted to drink a milkshake, you was eating broccoli. You wanted to eat breakfast, you were eating broccoli. Like no exception.
Was it, why broccoli specifically? Any reason or just because it was a healthy vegetable?
No, broccoli's high in fiber. Okay. And my theory was that if you took in fiber, you would not only feel fuller, so you would eat less, but that the fiber would help process everything else that you ate afterwards. Right. Makes sense. Doesn't fucking work. Don't do it. Oh my God. You want to talk about the most miserable 3 weeks of my life. I mean, and look, that was the only restriction. You could eat anything you wanted.
Just had to eat broccoli.
I did not want to eat anything else. I was done with it. I was like, it ain't worth the broccoli. I'm so tired of eating broccoli. Whatever you're offering me is not worth eating more broccoli first.
So, and not to cut you off there, but I have heard a similar, there's something, and I think this was a Russian thing or something, but it was called the Potato Diet. And the idea was the same. You could eat, potatoes with butter, salt, pepper, and eat as many of them as you want, as much as you want.
And that's it.
And that's it.
Yeah. And that's another piece of what I was trying to look for, right? Because I'm a guy who struggles to stop eating. Like I can go long periods without eating if I choose to. Like I'll just go all day and I'll eat dinner. Okay, I can do that. But once I start eating dinner, I want at least 2 plates of it, right? So I know that about me. So I didn't want any restriction for amount in any of my diets. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to solve it without restricting the amounts. I'm going to fix weight loss for the entire world. And yeah, don't eat broccoli before everything you eat. It did nothing except make me very unhappy.
And hate broccoli.
Oh, yeah. So the next 3 weeks was a different idea. The idea in general was don't eat processed food, right? But I don't know a lot about foods and where the fuck they come from. And my teacher kept making it sound so easy, like, oh, well, if you know where it comes from and the process of how it's made and all that, you can get it. I'm like, I don't know any of that. I don't even know what the hell plants are these fruits come from. Like, I have no idea. I don't know. For some reason, I'm like, food stupid. So I had to make it easy. So I picked out 5 different things that I knew were not processed. And that's fruits, nuts, vegetables, brown rice, and egg. There's no processing done to those 5 things. And so my rule was I could have as much as I wanted at any time I wanted, but it had to be those things. Now, when I did this, I was hesitant because I didn't know a lot about seasonings and if they were processed or not or what was in them. So we really limited the amount of seasoning we used. And let me tell you how fucking boring that gets.
Yeah.
Now, one of the tips my teacher gave me was don't look at what you can't have, look at what you get to have, right? And I've heard this in a lot of other ways for other scenarios, right? And I don't have to go to a meeting, I get to go to a meeting, and that sounds good. But like, it really did help. It was less about, oh man, I can't have cupcakes tonight. It was more like, man, you know what? I haven't had pineapple in a while, and that is actually really good and tasty, right? So I tried to enjoy the experience. Kind of sucked because it happened to be we went to Hershey Park during that experience and there's nothing to fucking eat at Hershey Park that fits that requirement. But basically what it turned into was I would eat fruit at breakfast. I would eat like fruit and nuts at lunch. And then at dinner, I would make this plate of like almost like a stir fry. It was basically rice with scrambled eggs and fruits and nuts and shit thrown on top of it, veggies, like whatever. And that was what I ate every goddamn day for 3 weeks. But let me tell you, highly effective. Highly effective. I ate as much as I wanted, which I didn't want a second plate because it was kind of bland. And then I lost like, I don't know, it was like 8 pounds in 3 weeks or something like that. And I didn't have a whole lot of weight to lose, right? I wasn't like large or obese or anything like that. So I was already pretty in shape, still lost 8 pounds in 3 weeks. And I actually felt better mentally. My anxiety felt lower. My depression felt lower. I don't know. Maybe I was on like a fucking non-processed food high or something for a minute, but I felt really, really good. And that kind of blew my mind more than anything.
Yeah, and there are plenty of studies out there. I mean, we didn't dig too deep into that.
Nope.
But there are plenty of studies out there that'll tell you that like processed foods and refined sugar and all that stuff are definitely linked to like depression, anxiety, other mental issues. Like there is a direct relation to that, and what you eat.
All the shit I like.
I know. It's all the shit everybody likes.
Well, and that's the problem. They've spent millions and millions of dollars in laboratories mixing out these chemicals and everything else to get the exact perfect version of their food that tastes as delicious as possible. And like fucking apples just doesn't compare to that, bro. Like,
Right.
what are you going to do, right? The apples don't have millions of dollars and a factory and a lab to do testing and inject stuff. Like,
Right.
it's hard to combat.
But I think what's tough nowadays is just even our mainstream food supply industry. I don't know if that's even a thing, but just mainstream media, whatever you want to call it. Like you don't see a lot of advertisements for healthy food. You know what I mean? If you're sitting around watching TV, there's not a lot of advertisements for fucking salads.
Who's going to advertise for
McDonald's
bananas?
and Dairy Queen. Right. And that's the problem. Like there's a tremendous amount of money spent. And I almost think because food companies know, like, this shit food that we're going to sell you, one, it doesn't really fill your craving for food. It fills a different craving that you have to satiate your sugar addiction, but it doesn't satiate your need for food. So you're going to eat this, and in 2 hours, you're going to want to eat more. Like, this isn't healthy. It isn't good for you. It isn't anything but gratification for a temporary basis. And then in a little while, you're going to need some more. So it's like a manipulation of our diets to, like you would think a drug dealer would do, you know?
I'm actually really disappointed at the dinner I had like an hour and a half ago. So where are we getting dessert after this? Because this is making me hungry.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I mean, you know, there is the avocados from Mexico commercial that sticks in my head, but I don't even eat avocados, so that's sucky for me.
I tried. I don't like them.
Yeah,
Can't.
It just doesn't look good.
I was doing them like in a shake in the morning.
Avocado shake?
Yeah. Well, it had like half an avocado in it just to get it in there.
I think you're braver than I am food-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, no way.
Well, I won't eat stuff I don't like. I mean, I got to be able to
You'll try
stomach
shit.
it. I will try shit.
I'll look
I don't
at
mind
shit,
trying.
I know I don't like
and
it.
I have got so, and people would tell you I used to be pretty weird about food. I've gotten way better in the last several years. I used to be one of those people that if my food was on a plate, it couldn't touch and things couldn't be mixed together, like stews or different like pies that had like vegetables and meat and shit in it all thrown together. Like none of that. Like my stuff had to be separate on a plate, and when I ate it, I had to eat all of the one thing before I would eat the next thing. Yeah, I just had weird, and I don't know why it just was like a weird eating habits, and I became aware of them and broke them. I don't know if they came from as a kid for some reason, but
I grew up eating, because my father always taught me, get the shit you don't want to do out of the way first. And so I grew up eating the thing I liked the least first, but then I didn't care about the rest of it. But I actually am the opposite. While I only like specific food, so I won't eat anything that's got stuff I don't want mixed in with it, but I want all my foods mixed together at all times. I love it. I like the contrast of the different textures all in the same bowl.
Oh, and see, and that's what I think would freak me out. Like I would see people mix like their corn with their mashed potatoes.
That's my favorite.
Like, how the fuck can you, like the textures are two opposite things. You can't have that.
That's like that Jell-O where they have the carrot slices in it and stuff. I love it. Yes.
So weird. I couldn't eat that. I don't even know if I could eat that now.
I think I ate some Greek food one time, and like everything on the menu was some different form of meat with mashed potatoes on top and then something else on top. It was like the whole menu was just that. I was like, that's interesting. I like it though. That's cool.
But now I have gotten to be way more brave in my food stuff because I've learned to cook somewhat. You know, I think I'm a pretty good cook. And I've learned what seasons I like and what spices, like what flavors I like, what my flavor palette is. So I can take a lot of different things, and I'm willing to sort of experiment a little bit.
Not me.
Different kinds of fish or different, and we'll have stuff we don't like. It happens, you know.
Nope.
Cook things that suck.
I don't eat stews. I don't eat soups. I don't eat any kind of salad dressings. I don't eat any kind of runny, creamy liquids at all, honestly.
I love condiments. I do like condiments.
Maybe mustard. Barbecue sauce. A1. I don't know. Yeah, I don't like a whole lot of stuff. And I'm, no. I'll look at food, and oh my God, if you're out there telling your kid you don't know if you like it till you try it, bullshit. I know a whole lot of foods I don't like, and I have never tasted. Yeah,
some things when you smell them, you know you're not going to like it from the
I will
smell.
look at food and tell you I will not like it. That shit looks mushy. I don't like mushy food. Nope. I'm out. There's definitely food I have not tried that I've never had a tomato. I will never have it. Fuck no. It just looks gross.
Why?
I don't know. It's mushy and juicy looking. No
There's
thanks.
different kinds of tomatoes.
Whatever. Same thing. I don't eat none of that.
Wow, that's weird. No, I'll try almost anything.
Yeah, see. That's what I said. You're braver than
And
me.
I'm willing to, like, I've experimented with different diets. One of the things that I found with myself on trying some of these different diets, and I heard this somewhere and it helped. In the beginning of most of this diet, trying, eating healthy stuff, what happens is I would get on whatever the newest kick was. It would last for like 3 or 4 weeks, and then by then I'd be like, fuck this, man. I just want a bowl of fucking ice cream, or I just want, you know, a piece of cake. Like you're somewhere and you're trying to talk yourself out of it. Like, oh, no, man, you've been doing so good, you know. Just don't do it. Don't give in. And then eventually you give in, or I give in. I don't know, maybe some people are way more disciplined than me. But eventually...
Survey says they all give in.
Yeah, right. So eventually I give in, and then... As soon as I give in that one time, it's like, well, fuck it. I'm out now. And then I go to eating shitty for the next 4 weeks, you know, and then it's like
4 years.
the flood. the floodgates open and it's, game on, like whatever. And what I was doing for the last couple weeks goes out the window. And then I heard this concept. I read it somewhere online. It was like the sort of 80-20 principle, where it's like, if I can just, I'm shooting for 100%, but if I like 80% of the time can do well, which that's just I'm going to call that a marginal number. What I mean is, for me, what that looks like is in a week, like I can have ice cream or a piece of cake or whatever, like once a week. It's not going to kill me. I can go out once a week and have a cheeseburger for lunch. I don't like to eat the processed breads and shit, but if I have one cheeseburger in a week, it's not going to kill me. It's fine. I don't need to then give up my whole diet and start eating cheeseburgers every day, and I can give myself that little bit of cheat room or that little bit of, break room, so that I don't have to deny myself of things that I really like. I can have them. It's just the moderation that helps me.
I don't want to fuck you up, but if you did each of those twice a week, you're still pretty close to that 20.
Yeah.
Just saying. That 2/7 isn't too bad.
Well, I mean, realistically, I don't know. I can go a week or two, and be perfect if it's everything lines up, good that week. But then the next week, it'll be somebody's anniversary, so there'll be cake, so you have to eat the cake at the anniversary. Even though it's always shitty cake, it's not even usually good.
So a couple, not just a couple, it's probably been a month and a half, 2 months now ago, I decided I want to look better again, right? Not that I look terrible or bad, but I wanted to look even better again. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to try that not processed diet I did a few years back, but I'm going to modify it a little bit, because basically what you just said, I find that I can only stick to things purely for so long until I just can't. And so the idea this time was same exact thing. Eat as much as you want, fruits, nuts, vegetables, brown rice, and eggs. For dinner, we're going to have our normal, healthy family dinner. And that was partly born out of the fact that I don't feel like trying to make two dinners, right? I don't want to make the dinner the kids can have and the dinner that I can have and then watch them eat something that looks good. And
this is like the second or third time I talked about me making dinner or making food. And I gotta be real, my wife makes most of the meals around this house. So let me at least give credit where credit's due and stop being a liar. It didn't seem fair for her to make two different dinners. All right.
So we were like, we'll just eat our regular dinner together as a family. And then the rest of the day, you do what you do. And what that has looked like, because I've just fallen to patterns. I'm not good at thinking through shit every other day. I just do the same thing every day. So every morning for breakfast, it's an apple and a banana. And then for lunch, it's that kind of that dinnerish meal from before, only this time it's more of a stir fry. Not fried or anything, but it's got a little more taste to it because we use like Chinese 5-spice and stuff, which is good. And then we have dinner, and then at night, I'll eat like an orange. Every once in a great while, some like pineapple bits or blueberries or strawberries gets thrown in, but not that often. And that's generally what it's looked like. But I have not been so strict that I can't deviate, right? My birthday happened during all this. Yeah, we're fucking having cake, right? I'm not going to deny myself. We go out somewhere or we go to see my mom and there's desserts. Okay, I'm eating dessert. If I feel like it at home and they got something good, I'm going to eat it. I just ate ice cream like 3 nights ago with some chocolate on it that we melted down from Easter. It was like, I'm not going to feel bad about that is where I'm at with it, right? And it's still been effective. Could it have been more effective if I was perfect? Maybe, but chances are that what would have happened is I'd have just stopped. I will say I do run into this problem. I don't want to stop once I start. So once I have the ice cream 3 nights ago, like last night and the night before, I have wanted ice cream or something sweet. I'm like, oh man, but I don't want to do it every night.
Yeah, that's the hard thing about sugar. Sugar's definitely addictive like that. I mean, I was going to say, like, for me, it was fast food. Like I would eat fast food for lunch all the time. There's a lot of fast food places around, and I can run out from work, and it's 5 minutes away, and cheeseburgers are delicious, and French fries are delicious, and chicken nuggets are delicious. All that stuff's good. And then I stopped eating it for probably literally months. It had been a couple of months I stopped eating it and I missed it. And then, my wife and I were like, yeah, let's go just, we're going to splurge. This will be our splurge night and we're going to get some McDonald's and whatever and just eat fast food and fuck it. We both missed it.
Fast food and fuck it sounds a lot like the new version of Netflix and chill.
And it was not good. I mean, it tasted like I expected it to taste, but I noticed how it made me feel. And I've had fast food, I think, once more since then, maybe twice more since then. And because I'm not denying myself of it, I don't really miss it all that much. It's like I know I can go have it, but now I'm sort of making a better choice not to have it because I don't like the fucking way it makes me feel. It's like, I can eat that double cheeseburger with bacon, but I'm not going to feel too good about it afterwards.
Yeah, and I think it's a really excellent point, right? I worked with this guy some years ago in construction. We were both working out, and he would come in, and he had like this super strict diet. Everything was weighed out, measured out, 3 ounces of broccoli, 2 ounces of like oatmeal flakes that had no flavor in them and all this stuff. Like had to be a baked potato with no butter and this, that, and the other. And we would talk about that, and he was extreme with how locked in he was on his diet. And what I saw with him was that he would do that for 3 or 4 months and be in like great shape. But then he would like in the middle of the night raid the cabinet and eat like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all night and just lose it. And then, gain a lot of weight for 6 months. And then he'd get back on steroids and get back locked into his diet. And I would say things to him like, I just can't do a baked potato without butter, right? I'm going to have butter on my baked potatoes. I'm going to have mashed potatoes. I'm going to have oatmeal that's got, seasoning or flavor in it from the store. And he's like, "Oh, well that's not going to work." And I'm like, "But mine's way more sustainable than yours.
Right.
Like I can do mine forever.
Right.
You can do yours for about 3 months until you break down." And that's what I think part of this is too. And that's as people in our population who struggle with, like, I can't go get one heroin.
Right.
I'm just going to do heroin one night a week. I mean, maybe I can. I don't know. I haven't tried it, and I'm not going to. But that's something we struggle with, is a healthy relationship with being able to do something for ourselves and then not do it for a time.
Yeah, and more is always better.
Fuck yeah.
Like, if this is good, more is definitely better. Like, that's just how my brain works, you know what I mean? And if I like something, I like it every day, I want it all the time.
Well, and maybe that's where the problem comes in. I think of having a piece of cake as treating myself.
Right.
Am I really? I mean, would I look at eating a piece of garbage off the ground as treating myself? Because like that's what I'm doing to my body, right? Would I take my car to the gas station and fill it with water in the tank and be like, "Oh, I'm treating you.
Yeah.
I'm treating you. Good car."
And some of those concepts I have to remind myself of, just, like you said, the water in the car. It's like the sort of, it's an old computer term, but I always thought about it with people. It's like garbage in, garbage out. And that was like a data entry term that you would use. Like if your input of your data is real shitty, then your output, on the other end is shitty.
Right.
And it's the same with, me. Like if I just put a bunch of shitty stuff in myself, whether it's food, whether it's ideas, whether it's people's, bad decisions or my bad decisions, if I'm consistently feeding myself a bunch of shit, that's what I put out. That's what I become.
I mean, technically, you could feed yourself anything and you're going to put out shit.
Yeah. At one part of me is going to put out shit.
Right. But yeah, you mean like the way you feel.
Yeah, the way I feel, the way I think,
level,
the way I act. And so that's where a lot of these healthy habits, come into play. It's like, is meditating like great and exciting and wonderful all the time? No, no. It's become a part of what I do, almost like brushing my teeth. I don't brush my teeth because I love it.
I got to treat myself with meditation. I'll meditate, seated posture, silence for like 3 days in a row. And then there's a day like today where I'm like, I just fucking can't. I'm going to lay on the floor and put on a guided meditation. And that's the best I got today.
Yeah.
Like that's my treat for doing well those other 3 days.
And that's, so with meditation, like I mix it up all the time. Like now I'm back to doing just almost a silent, like I do a bell and then 10 minutes silent, just sitting in silence. But different times I'll go through different guided meditations. I'll use different apps with different guided like programs on them. I switch it up when I get bored because I know like, I'm going to get bored of this. It might be great, fascinating, and wonderful now, but in 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to be boring. And so I can try something else, and that's okay. Sticking with it, as long as I'm sticking with it. And it's the same with my healthy eating. Like I was doing keto for months, and I knew when I went into it, I wasn't doing it forever. I just said, I'm just going to go real strict with keto for a couple of months and see what happens, see where it goes. And it was fun. I mean, I got the carb counter thing on my phone and all that shit. Like say, it wears out really quickly when you're trying to like log everything you eat and get pictures of labels so you can see how many fucking calories it has.
And then the one doesn't show up in their database. So
yeah,
you gotta
and then you're
manually
trying to
enter
search it around. Yeah, it's crazy.
I hate that.
And but like it's novel in the beginning and it's a little bit fun, and that's kind of how I go into most of that with these healthy eating things that I do. And I know it won't be forever and it'll be temporary, but that's fine. Like I'm making the consistent effort to try to, make myself feel better, think better, function better. And then we got lazy. We took some vacations, and on vacation it's always, I choose to throw things out the window. I was like, it's a fucking vacation. I'm going to enjoy myself. I've earned it, whatever.
It's vacation. I'm going to make my body feel like shit while we're here.
Right. But, the point is I remind myself, like, the reason I'm doing those things isn't out of some sort of punishment of myself or I feel like I need to suffer. It's like, this is good and healthy for me. And when I do it consistently, I feel better about myself. I physically feel better. I think better, and I'm a better person. And I don't have to deny myself things in my life. So the reason I didn't come Sunday, and I don't know if this is a result of the keto diet. You had mentioned reading something about it. So I was like, oh shit, I didn't research it that way, but I ended up with a kidney stone. I was in the emergency room Friday night with a kidney stone, and I just made some self-assumptions, knowing enough. I mean, I've educated myself a lot about, my diet and what I eat and those sorts of things over the years, and I know that I lately have been intaking way too much caffeine and creatine in the form of pre-workout drinks and energy drinks.
Energy drinks? Billy drinks energy drinks? He needs to pick up a one-day key tag.
And coffee, and not drinking near as much water as I'm supposed to. And I'm going to blame the combination of those things on why I think I got this kidney stone. Could be nothing to do with that. It could be totally just hereditary, but no one in my family that I know of has suffered with them. My dad hasn't. My brother or no one else that I know in my family suffered with them. Although I don't know if that's the kind of thing you run around and talk about at a family event. Like I'm not, hey, I just had kidney stones.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, just doing a quick search, there's plenty of websites that say keto and kidney stones are, related, correlated. None of them say anything specific. They just say increased risk, blah, blah, blah. But none of them are like, they're not the National Institute of Health or anything. They're websites, so I'm not going to dig deeper because it's not my kidney stone.
Yeah, and another thing I'll just say about any kind of diets, and it's almost like you talked about with yourself being a picky person, like it's important for me to know myself. And maybe keto doesn't cause kidney stones in everybody, but if it fucking causes them in me, it's probably a good reason to not do that.
I did keto one time, and I fucking hate it because I don't like fat.
Yeah.
So I was miserable.
I didn't mind it. The hardest part with most of this kind of eating is you really almost have to be prepared to eat this way. Like I can't, when I go to work now, if you look, we have a refrigerator at work. I have like 2 bags worth of like snacks and shit in there because the only stuff at work is a fucking Lance machine loaded with potato chips and chocolate and whatever other kind of, Starbursts and shit like that. And when I'm at work, if I'm hungry and that's what's there, then that's what I eat. I've spent hundreds of dollars in that Lance machine on Starburst and Skittles and fucking Snickers bars.
I just won't eat.
Oh, see, I get hungry and I need to eat. But that's another thing with, again, just me being the person I am. I eat the opposite of you. I will never sit down and eat 2 plates of food ever. Buffets love me because if I go in and pay $12, I'm eating 1 fucking plate of food and then possibly some dessert, and that's it. I'm done. I'm tapped out. Now, in an hour and a half, I could eat another equally sized plate of food, but it's just the way my body works. I don't have a huge stomach to hold a lot of food, but I burn a lot of calories, which is why I'm thin, I guess, a high metabolism or whatever you want to call it. So I need to eat a lot. I've tried to do the intermittent fasting at times, and that's kind of tough for me just because I get so fucking hungry, so fast. And I can never, gorge myself enough at dinner to make it through to the next morning. It's like by 9 o'clock, I'm laying there with fucking hunger pangs in bed trying to drink a bunch of water so that I can go to sleep.
See, when I did intermittent fasting, what I found was, it's not that I cram so much in at dinner, though I do, but I didn't feel like that held me the whole day. I just felt like when I got hungry the next morning and early afternoon, what would happen is I'd get hungry. It would start to feel a little funky in my stomach. And within 15 minutes to at most a half an hour, it was all gone. It just stopped.
Well, see, I get hangry. I'm one of those, that Snickers commercial where the guy turns into a diva. Yeah, that's me totally. Jen when I'm running around at home working on projects, I won't eat. I'll be out working in the yard in the morning because I don't like breakfast. I'm not a breakfast person. I love breakfast. So I'll get up in the morning and I like breakfast at 11 o'clock. I'm a brunch guy.
I want breakfast all day.
Yeah, that's fine too. But I don't like to eat in the morning. I guess I'm not a morning eater until 10 o'clock. So I'll get up in the morning and I might go start working in the yard, whatever, mowing the grass or doing whatever, especially in the summer when it's hot. And then I just don't eat because I can work through being hungry. But then by lunch, I'm ripping everybody's fucking head off and angry as shit. I ain't hungry. I'm just angry.
Right. I think where I'm at now, my biggest difficulty, right? So I did this 2 months of this, specific diet that I thought was good for me, and I still think is a really healthy way to eat, non-processed. I'm a believer in that more than anything. And I appreciate that, if nothing else, it's not been so much about what I'm restricting, but more about just paying attention. Right? It's pay attention to what you're putting in your body. But now I'm at a point where, I exceeded whatever goal I was going for. I don't know what the hell that was. I guess I could lose another pound or 2 and get a little more cut, but for what? I don't know. I'm 41. I don't have a whole lot of purpose to run around with my shirt off anyway, so it's not doing me a whole lot of good. So I'm happy with where I'm at, but I don't have the ability to move back into somewhere in the middle, right? I can stick with what I'm doing for a while longer, at least. It is kind of getting old. But I could stick with this. But then I'm going to lose more weight, and I really don't need or want to. I went to come here today, and I usually wear these pants without a belt because they just stay up, and they were starting to fall off. My crack was hanging out. I was like, oh, shit. I'm all right, that's enough of that, right? But I don't know how to move from this place and not end up back where I was before I started this place. And that's where I always go every time.
And even on keto, I have been I haven't been outside of 10 pounds since my high school weight. I've been the exact same, range of, I've been a little heavier, but I mean within 5 pounds either way. I've 160s the heaviest I've ever been, and 150s the lightest I've been. Even I did keto for all those weeks, and I mean I was pissing on the strips, so I know I was in ketosis every day. If you don't know, you can buy these strips at the store. They let you know if you're in ketosis, and so just to make sure, you need to check yourself. There's another way you can do it with blood sticks, but I am not sticking myself and measuring my blood. I wasn't that into it.
I'm pretty sure Billy was high and just taking pregnancy tests. I'm not pregnant. Perfect.
But so I know I was in ketosis for all those weeks, and I didn't lose any weight. None at all.
Well, I just think it's that problem that people run into. How do I form a healthy relationship with food, right? So, okay, I did my 2 months of my time, so to speak, and now I want to eat more and open up my intake, but I don't want to go back to where I was. But I feel like anytime I open up and like create new softer rules, I just automatically fall back into that where I was. And that's what I don't want to do. And it's like, how do you find that middle ground where you're not eating a snack every night, but you're also not eating a snack one night a week?
Yeah, I don't know. That's that hard addict thing. It's like, how do you just smoke weed?
Yeah.
You know, like that's my problem. If I knew how I could just smoke weed, I probably would. I just
Hold
don't
on.
think it would end up there.
So if I can just eat snacks 3 nights a week, I can probably smoke weed is what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing. I might have motivation now.
Well, and even thinking of that, I'm like, all right, so even if I could, all right, if, let's say I needed weed for my anxiety, let's just say. That's what I try to talk myself into all the time. And this high anxiety guy, I could just, at the end of the day, inevitably what would happen is it would get back to the place where even though I wasn't smoking it all day, I'd be thinking about smoking it all day, you know. I'd be at work at 9 o'clock in the morning drinking my coffee like, man, I can't wait till 9 o'clock tonight when I'm at home.
I would drink extra coffees to be more anxious.
Yeah.
Like, oh, man, I definitely need some weed.
But that's the same with, that's like the same with food. It's like when I get myself on these diets, it's almost like, you know, abstinence based.
Start an argument with my wife. And
I'm
taking my pulse.
I'm all in.
Look at my anxiety's up. I better go get some of that.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. I do okay. Well, I can't say that. I was going to say I do okay with the 80-20 thing, but the truth is I don't. I've been pretty bad the last couple of weeks. I mean, we went on vacation, and then we came back, and then we went on another vacation, and then I got lazy with cooking the food. Like, the prep of keto is a lot of prep if you want anything decent. I mean, like, I like tasty food, but I would have to fucking make myself a separate dinner because the kids weren't eating that shit. So I would make myself a separate dinner from the kids and prepping lots of snacks and prepping lots of stuff to keep around the house. So then, like, my whole Sunday is sitting around cooking food for the week. And then, you know, as soon as I get busy on a Sunday and I don't have that day to cook all that food, like, then I'm fucked. And, you know, and it's like, well, you can't really cheat real easy on keto. Like, I mean, you can eat celery and peanut butter or fucking whatever, but that gets boring pretty quick, you know.
Yeah. So, and I think, I guess to bring this to somewhere, it's just pay attention, right? It's awareness. Like, what are we really doing to ourselves? And I get coming from a place of drug use and just being clean feels like enough at first, but I see so many people get clean, you know, they're stick figures, and I'm not saying everybody has to be a stick figure or that everybody has to be a certain weight or not overweight or any of that. Like, this isn't about my opinions about that. I just know that I watch so many people who come in as stick figures, are just happy to be alive, right, and off of drugs. And before they leave the recovery house, or within like 3 to 6 months of being in the recovery house, they're unhappy with the way they look. It's not about my opinion, right? They're unhappy with the way they look because they've just taken on this new eating and not paid enough attention. And maybe that's something we need to talk more about early on, right? It's never nothing. Nobody was ever talking about their fucking diet in a meeting when I was there early on.
Right.
But maybe this is stuff we do need to talk more about. Like, you know, we talked to Recovery Cafe last week. Like, maybe you go into a program like that and they have like, hey, and I think they did say they had cooking classes and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe you teach people how to cook and how to make healthier meals and how to eat non-processed food and what these foods can do to, like, we need more education on this. This could maybe even be in high school education. Like, maybe all fucking people should know that sugar is probably not good for you, right? Like, maybe all people should know that some of these chemicals in food can increase depression in population.
Yeah, and one of the things, and we don't have to get into all these, but one of the things I found in researching some of this information, part of the reason they even put this site up was exactly what you're talking about. It's like in traditional recovery or traditional, drug rehabilitation, they don't really talk about the importance of, diet and healthy eating and how that affects your mental health. And so this, website, endsickness.org/27 studies proving impact of addiction. And it basically goes through all these different studies that show how diet and different deficiencies affect us mentally, and impact either our impulsive behaviors or the impacts of long-term addiction on, different parts of our brain and body. And like those things matter, those things, for me, the reason I chose to use is because life sucked, everything sucked, and I hated myself. If it didn't, I probably wouldn't be trying to kill myself every day.
Right.
And then if I get clean and, maybe I get a job, maybe I, start putting some things together. But if I still physically feel like shit, or my thinking is still, pretty negative and shitty, I want to try to do what I can to improve that. And I think a lot of people don't have the right information, to make good decisions for themselves when it comes to food and nutrition.
And that website should probably be called 26 Nutritional Studies, because at least one of them is like, hey, crackheads are lacking nutrients. And it's like, wow.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, some of them were weird, and they had to do with different drugs, different effects of alcohol, and some had to do with cocaine. And
who wasted money on that?
Yeah,
on
doing
that
studies, right? Can you believe heroin addicts are low nutrient levels?
Ridiculous.
Shocker. But the last thing I would say is, for myself, and the reason any of this matters to me, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter to other people, but the reason a lot of this matters to me, when I was out there using, I felt like I was really just existing. You know what I mean? I was doing the minimal amount I had to do to fucking survive. And as I got into recovery, I realized like I could begin to have like a life that was worth meaning and purpose driven, and that, my life had some value. And then I realized that if I put a little effort into a couple of things, that my quality of life went up, exponentially. And those things are my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual and emotional health, all those things you talked about in the beginning. And it's taken me years of time to be like, okay, I came in, I got involved with step work, I addressed a lot of the drugs, a lot of the immediate, emotional, like I want to fucking kill myself stuff, and my life got better. But now I've realized by putting some work into all these other areas, I can continue to get better in different ways. And it's been worth it. The benefits have been worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, I am right now in a current cycle, and I feel like I'm going to jinx it because it's like the third time I've said it recently, but just in a cycle of doing a lot of good stuff regularly for my body. I have ran or walked every day for like the last 9 days because I'm in this Voices of Hope run thing or whatever. We got a run team for some Rage Against Addiction running race thing. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm running. That's all I can tell you, right? I'm running like 3 miles a day or more. And for like 45 or 46 days now straight, I've been meditating, and I've been doing this diet for like 60 days pretty thoroughly. And so I'm like, I am feeling the benefits of all that. Like I feel spiritually centered, and like I'm about to float when I fucking meditate and shit. So yeah, and look, it won't last, right? And I think that's fine. It's kind of like the idea of the bicycle tire, right? Like right now I'm at the top, but I can't just stay at the top if I want to move forward. Like you ride the bicycle tire, you will eventually be at the bottom again, and that's just part of it, and I'm fine with that. But like right now, I am definitely thriving with doing these everyday practices that are a pain in the ass some days, that I do have to make time for. They don't just happen every day, right? I have to stop and be like, fuck, I don't feel like meditating today. When can I fit it in, right? It's just part of it. But if I do those things, I do reap the benefit.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, life's going to give me some shit no matter what. I'd rather it not be shit of my own making or my own decisions, Right. I'd rather it just come organically out of life rather than me making shitty decisions because I'm not taking care of myself.
Yeah. So that's all I got. Anything else about nutrition?
No.
All right. Get out there and fucking eat right, whatever that means for you. Maybe I shouldn't have said fuck. Get out there and eat right. It's nice. Be kind to yourself. I should probably cuss less. Nah. All right. Have a good week. Did you like this episode? Share it with people you think might get something out of it. Check out the rest of our episodes at recoverysortof.com. Also, while you're there, you can find ways to link up with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, anything. We're always looking for new ideas. Got an idea you want us to look into? Reach out to us.